Welcome to Up to the Minute. It is Friday, June the 12th. We are happy to have you with us on the Friday morning. You made it through another week. Can you believe it? I think it's now 13 weeks that we've been out of the office, working remotely, bringing you the show live every day at 10 a.m. And I'm joined by Brittany Pacheco. Good morning, Brittany. 13 weeks. Does that sound about right?
That sounds about right, Todd. We're going into our 13th week next week.
Wow.
From working from home. So it's been a journey, let's just say that. But good morning, everyone who's joining us on Facebook Live. We appreciate you being here with us. Be sure to like us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And don't forget to head over to our YouTube channel where we have thousands of videos at your disposal, all produced by our very own HCCTV. Lastly, hit that notification bell while you're on YouTube. That way you can be the first to find out the latest from HCC.
Thanks, Brittany. And we've got your HCC news and information for the next half hour or so. Grab a cup of coffee and sit back. We've got some great guests, including Dr. Michael Boucher, the program coordinator for Geographic Information Sciences, better known as GIS. Good morning.
Good morning.
Glad to have you with us. We'll be with you in a moment. We've also got Roland Field, supervisor of Fabrication and Innovation Lab out at HCC Southwest across town, in the house. Good morning, Roland.
Good morning.
Thanks for being here. We're going to be with you in a moment, and we're going to start right now with Dr. Ritu Raju. She is the Dean of Advanced Manufacturing Center of Excellence, located as well at HCC Southwest. Good morning.
Good morning, Todd and the team. Great work. Y'all have been doing production all through these 13 weeks. Thank you.
It is hard to believe we're out here for 13 weeks. You know, we were talking a little bit earlier before the show started, and we've talking about the phase that manufacturing is in now. When we started this whole shutdown, people were trying to make, hand sanitizer. That was running out. Face masks, PPE. Now, you had told me the industry is kind of shifting for more personal devices to make people safe. Tell us a bit about that.
Right. So when we shut down in March, there was an acute shortage of PPE at that point. So at that point, HCC stepped in. We were approached by MD Anderson and other people in the Texas Medical Center who asked if we could support their efforts by providing PPE. So at that point, HCC created a collaborative called H-Force, and H-Force helped the city. We were designated an essential facility by the county judge for Harris County, as well as for Fort Bend. And so we played an instrumental role in that initiative for about 3 months, helping the city, helping frontline responders get access to PPE. The Fort Bend County folks also approached us because we're in Stafford. And so we were able to support 2 counties with that. And Roland will talk more about the technical aspects of how that happened. And that was a very interesting project. But what we're seeing now, Todd, is that the supplies of PPE, the supplies of hand sanitizer, those supply chains are slowly starting to get more stable. But where industry is going right now is looking at ways and means for people to resume their normal lives and to do so safely. So, you've heard a lot about the new normal, right? So that new normal is going to include devices that will provide protection. So on the one hand, we're looking at a lot. So there are devices that provide UV radiation, ultraviolet radiation, that sanitizes surfaces. There are also devices that are like fogging machines that provide cleaning for commercial vehicles like, buses or trucks. But what's also happening is parallel to the production of those commercial grade devices, manufacturers are also looking at providing individual devices. So these will be like little handheld devices. Let's say, you're taking a ride share taxi or you're going to a restaurant and you want to be sure that it's sanitized. So a lot of companies are now prototyping and designing individual devices that will help us resume our lives in a safe and sanitary manner. So those little fogging machines so that, you can fog your car, especially, if you're carrying children back and forth. So I think what's happening now with the manufacturing industry is that the manufacturing industry has already made a big pivot, right? They're already looking at how do they bring people back safely to production. So production is not going away anywhere, but what is going to happen is that production norms are going to change to ensure that we maintain the safety standards that are recommended by the CDC and other health agencies. So what you're going to see now is you're going to see a slew of devices that will help people ensure personal safety and protection.
Well, that's certainly fascinating because, you know, the question is coming back right now, and it's a topic that's discussed almost daily at our HCCTV meetings about people feeling unsafe going back to work and getting back into the normal day of life, or what is going to be our new normal. What you're talking about is industries reaching out now, creating devices to kind of smooth that transition, because that's really where we're headed in the next couple of months.
And, you know, it makes sense because any kind of extended lockdown, we already know that it's very damaging to the economy. So really, we need to start thinking about ways to reconstruct, right, after the crisis. And really, like I said, we need to start thinking about how do we let people do their normal activities at the same time keeping them safe.
Dr. Ritu Raju, I appreciate you giving us a bit of insight here this morning. I'm going to move across the district to Roland Fields. And Roland, you're at work right now. But I guess from what Dr. Raju was saying, you guys were considered essential workers throughout this whole process.
Yes, we came directly back from spring break and started up the lab. I don't know, a week after that? I'm not sure. It's a blur.
Tell me what type of work you're doing now for HCC, some of the technical aspect. Did you start off working on PPE, and where are you guys now? What are you manufacturing?
We're still doing a small amount of PPE. Basically, we're getting ready to transform our lab into a newer lab with more equipment. But what we started off with was doing working with some of the local nonprofits, and we were doing face mask parts. And then working with our other lab, the Idea Studio, we split up the work. I started doing more laser cutting for a community project that was doing the face masks. So all we were doing, they would have volunteers come in and deliver material to us. We would sort through the material and use one of our lasers to cut the material to pieces so that they could easily sew it together. So yeah, it was mind-numbing after a while because you're doing the same thing over and over and over again. I have a lot of sympathy for people who do line work. I don't know how they do it. Wearing a face mask a lot wasn't totally necessary here, but I did it because I was trying to keep my, any condition I had away from the fabric and the tools
Sure.
I was using. So wearing a face mask and safety PPE stuff every single day, it's hard. You know, the nurses and
Right.
the people who do that, it's incredible.
Roland, I know we were able to get some pictures of the building I believe you're in now a couple of days ago, and we were going to show people the social distancing that's going on now and the new things that are in place. When people return to the Advanced Manufacturing Center, students in the fall, things are going to look a whole lot different. Maybe you can talk about some of those safety measures that you guys are practicing there.
What they're doing right now is what probably everyone's going to be doing. You have a check-in line. So they come in, they take your temperature, they make sure you're wearing gloves and mask. They answer your questions at the front desk, and they limit the amount of people that are allowed in the building. Basically, the general public's not allowed, and we do allow only students that are pre-qualified to be here. They go through a survey and a question and answer stuff, all the things that are probably getting to be normal.
So let me ask you this, though, because here's a question. If I'm a student and I'm going to a class there in the fall, say I'm going to take an in-person class, one of the options that we're offering, do I need to get there earlier than normal? Because you talked about some check-in options. How long is it usually going to add to the students getting into the classroom?
I don't really know. That's going to be the administrations. They're going to let the students know that all ahead of time because they do have to spread them out. I know that right now they spread the students out. They give them a little bit different start times because in our industry, it's all hands-on. We're doing manual machining, teaching, the things that you cannot do remotely, hands-on. So they spread those students out, but they're also checking the teachers. So they have to do the teachers, the staff, everyone gets checked. So they do have to spread it out. So they'll have to let everybody know.
So the key, though, is probably getting there earlier than you normally would be a safe idea, just so you want to go through that check-in. But you're saying not only students, but also faculty, staff, anyone that's going in that building does need to go through a screening process.
Yes, there is no exceptions.
Roland, I know, you and I met many years ago when I worked out at Southwest, and you worked a lot with the 3D printers, and used to make some interesting designs for us. Or have you created anything bizarre on the 3D printer in the last couple of weeks when you've had some spare time?
Not on purpose. Definitely not on purpose. Yes, we've created some really bizarre things, but they were not on purpose. One of the things about 3D printing is failure is an option.
Yeah. I don't think people realize, but really HCC was in the forefront of bringing on 3D printers. We had a good number of them really back 7 or 8 years ago, and that number's grown exponentially with the addition of the Advanced Manufacturing Center.
Yes, so it went from kind of non-focused to a little bit more focused. So what we're going to have in the near future, we're going to get beyond plastic to metal 3D printers, which is a class of itself. That's going to be really exciting, that you can actually go into a local lab, whether you're an engineer, a student, engineering student, or somebody just wants to see it. And then you'll actually be able to see a 3D metal printer and possibly use it right in front of you.
That's pretty cool. When you guys, I really want to get with the Culinary Program, because I can't wait till they get the 3D printers for food. That's what I'm looking forward to seeing.
Well, they have those chocolate, and then you get the 3D guys all excited because 3D printing pizza is not 3D. They don't like that.
We're still a little. Roland Fields, thanks for joining us. I know you're very busy. We appreciate you joining us on the show this morning.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're going to move across town, of course, to Michael Boucher. Michael, thanks for joining us back on the show once again. We've had you on once before. You're over the Geographic Information Sciences. And if people are going, wait a second, that sounds familiar. Everyone literally uses this on a daily basis.
Yes. It's very important to understand that while COVID-19 has been a tragic for the world as a pandemic, the main map that everybody's been looking at by the Johns Hopkins University is actually GIS and database management, and it's real-time updated once a day by their whole team of professionals. So everybody's seeing GIS now, not really realizing what they're looking at.
And, we've all got it on our phones, and maybe you can clarify whether this is true or not. I heard a rumor, and I think I read some stuff about it, that during the lockdown, there were certain factions that were able to track people and to see where people were gathering in large masses because of their cell phone signals. Oh, yes.
One of the things that comes with technology is the ability to peer into one's private movements. A lot of people, like I have a social app for my family. My mom, she lives here in Houston. I like to track where she goes because she's not from Houston. She's from the Northeast.
Right.
And she's afraid she'll get lost, so I have to help her get home. My wife, I track her. I track my son as well. It's a good tracking mechanism, but your phone has a significant signature against the cell towers that now can actually say, okay, if we have this one cell tower, how many people are pinging? So they can now identify, maybe not necessarily you, but they can identify large groups of gatherings.
That's something. I know they were doing that during the lockdown because you kept reading about it. I figured it was it had to be true in some shape or form. So GIS workers needed now more than ever. How long is your program? Can people get in and get short-term certifications? Can they do 2-year degrees? Can they transfer to 4? How does that work?
Okay, so we have a 3-tier system, a level 1 and a level 2 certification. Those are geared to get either people with degrees to retool. For example, I have a young lady who's got a degree in sociology, really not going anywhere in that career field. She's interested in the GIS aspect of it. She got her level 1 certification and moved on. I've had students come for the level 1 certification, go get a job, and then come back to finish off that Associates of Applied Science. Now, the Associates of Applied Science is a 2-year degree. We have been working diligently with Texas A&M for our students to move from HCC to College Station to be able to obtain a 4-year degree. More importantly, last year, the Associates of Applied Science has been recognized by the Governor's Office, and the Texas Workforce Investment Council is meeting the standards for GIS education for the Texas Skills Board. And we are in the process of doing that with the level 2 right now. So not only do the students get their diploma, but they get a gold Boston seal from the state of Texas.
And I think you and I have talked about this before because you've been on several of our shows, but companies that you wouldn't think need these services are hiring your workers. Maybe you can give us some examples of that, because you never would think that maybe Nabisco or something like that wants to hire GIS workers, but they really are in some shape or form. Isn't that true?
Oh, yes. We place students with city governments. We actually had somebody do an internship with the Houston Housing Authority. You would think they would know where their houses are.
Yeah.
But with GIS, not only do they know where their houses are, but now they can track low-income housing to get people off the street, get people back on their feet. Banks use it to track loans. So when you get a home loan, they know exactly where your house is. They've got a bunch of database information on your house. Or in the oil and gas industry, banks loan money to wildcat companies, and they go out and then they have geological information that's been put into the GIS so they can track how far down they have to go to drill, and it comes back in a dollar amount. More importantly, I see with all the protesters and all of the social injustice and the social change movements going on, we're going to start seeing a lot more people get involved in GIS, not just for the reform of police departments, but more for the reform of society, because you can't understand what's going on in society if you don't know where these things are.
Right, sure. That makes a lot of sense. Another thing too with GIS services, if you learn the technology now, is this something that in 5 years you're going to have to relearn, or do the principles translate and maybe you take classes to enhance your career as you go along? How does that work?
For me, speaking generally, the technology changes. Right? The principles and the practical applications really do not. They add certain things for certain industries. Because when I first started in GIS, there wasn't an oil and gas package. Now there's a whole oil and gas package for pipeline GIS, wildcatting, geology kind of thing. It's a constant learning process. Once you understand the principles, most of the time, people will get into jobs and then they have policies that they follow. They may never have to learn something new, but learn it on their own anyway.
Does HCC have specific programs that address the oil and gas industry that create workers who go specifically in that?
Currently, in the GIS field, no. That's not to say we're not working at it. Right. We have a class called Special Topics 1491. In the spring or the fall of 2021, I plan on introducing GIS for pipeline. So students can come take that class instead of doing an internship or a practicum, and then they can have the skills necessary to move into the oil and gas industry. Moreover, by the end of fall, we should have our program aligned with the ESRI certifications. And with those certifications, students can finish the program, set for the certification, and be certified with ESRI technology. Because most of the time, people look for certification and professional licensures, and the GISP, you have to sit as a working professional for at least 5 years. At least this way, our students are now more compatible because they have the degree and they have the certification. So we're working diligently with the oil and gas industry and ESRI to enhance our students. And I've been working with Dr. Webster's group about creating continuing education programs for the GIS certification, or for people who don't have the necessarily time to sit through a full semester. They can come and get a certificate in learning intro to GIS and ArcGIS Pro, which is going to be the new major platform for GIS moving forward.
Is there high job placement in your program, working with like advisory boards? I know all of our programs have advisory boards you guys work with.
Right. There's always high placement. The problem, the problem that comes is, like, I have one student, she's adamant with staying in Houston. She can move to Midland and have a job in a minute, right? There's high placements. Everybody floods to Houston anyway, so it's kind of a push and fight. But if they're willing to relocate within 100 miles, they can find jobs easy.
Wow. So really the key is, if you're, some people may be wanting to relocate from Houston, this would be a job that would translate really across the nation if you have the proper certifications.
If you just have the Associates of Applied Science degree, you automatically are sought after, and especially if you're like done with the big city, you want to go a little bit more remote. I mean, there's survey companies hiring GIS people at $36,000, $45,000 a year because they can't get people to move out there. If you're willing to make that move, it's lucrative. And that move could lead you back to Houston within 5 years. You never know.
You never know. Dr. Michael Boucher with the GIS program. Thanks for being here with us on Up to the Minute this morning.
Thanks, Todd. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Yes, sir. You too.
So we've got Brittany Pacheco at her home. You're back home today, Brittany?
I am back home today, Todd, and that's where I'm going to stay forever.
Well, sooner or later, we're going to have to return to work. I got news for you. It'll happen hopefully sooner rather than later, but we got to think about it one of these days.
Not holding my breath right now.
So we've got some big things to announce. The main thing to keep in mind, Brittany, is registration's happening for the fall. There are different options for courses. But one thing that they want to make aware to students is we had to take the fall schedule down, at least for the time being, to be reworked.
Correct. And I've always said it to just everyone who listens and watches our show, to pack some patience. So while we originally did have our schedule up, we did have to take it down just to make sure that, we look things over, make sure everything is 100% ready to go for fall 2020. So the new Next Learning experience is temporarily down, but don't be alarmed. We will bring it back up as soon as those schedules have been reworked.
One thing you can keep in mind, students, as some students have registered, I know our administration looks at trends, and they may be adding or supplementing some classes, so it's being revised to suit our students. That's what the main thing to keep in mind, to better serve you and make sure you get the education that you need. And that fall schedule will be up. It's temporarily down, but it will be up very soon, and we'll make sure you know about that. Meanwhile, though, if you are registering for the fall, virtual information sessions are taking place from Enrollment Services. And if you enroll, Brittany, especially first-time people enrolling at HCC, you need to take one of these.
Definitely, absolutely, because one of the mandatory tasks that new students need to attend is new student orientation. And so those kind of questions, along with testing, application process, financial aid, all sorts of questions that you may have, you can take part in the virtual information sessions. You are required to register, and the next available date is next Wednesday. I have to look at my calendar just to make sure. June 17th at noon. So if you're interested in participating in any one of these virtual information sessions, head over to hccs.edu/information sessions to sign up today.
We have a new initiative at HCC. Well, it's been around for a couple of weeks, but it's a very important initiative because we're trying to get Houstonians and many Texans back to work. There are lots of jobs out there. Even though about 1.5 million Texans have applied for unemployment since March, there's about 200,000 jobs across the Houston area that have been created since March, and we're trying to get you the training to retool you and retrain to go into those job fields. And Brittany's, there's 5 different areas that are available through jobsnowhouston.org.
Definitely. And those 5 areas are in healthcare, logistics, manufacturing. We just finished talking with our advanced manufacturing crew, IT, and construction. So if you have an interest in any one of these fields and more, head over to jobsnowhouston.org for information on how HCC can help fast track your training so that we can get you into one of those jobs that are in high demand.
That's right. And if you are, just to move to a different subject, if you are in need of COVID testing, that is happening today. I believe the testing is extended through tomorrow, as a matter of fact, June the 13th, the Saturday. It's at the Northeast College from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. That's happening at 555 Community College Drive. However, Brittany, you like to say you have to call ahead for an appointment.
You do, because it's not just, hey, let's just add an extra step to it. It's required. So we wouldn't want anyone in our community to show up without that appointment and possibly be turned away. So be sure to go to the website or call ahead to make sure you have your appointment set for either today or tomorrow. Again, it's from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. at our Northeast campus at 555 Community College Drive. So you can go to you can go to txcovidtest.org or call 512-883-2400 to make your appointment.
So, Brittany, you have any big plans for the weekend?
I have no big plans whatsoever for the weekend. If it doesn't already revolve around my puppy, no, I don't have any plans. What about you, Todd?
You know, I might try to get out a little bit. You know, I want to mention, you know, we still are in the middle of a pandemic. I know a lot of people get out and try to do things. Make sure you wear your mask out there, practice the social distancing, and be safe, because there's still a virus going around, and a number of people, especially in Harris County, are still catching it. It's still certainly out there, and we can't forget about that.
Definitely. There's been a huge spike in hospital admissions for those who have COVID. And so we do always need to exercise caution when we venture outside of our homes, as you said, to wear our mask. Make sure you properly wash your hands, hand sanitize whenever humanly possible, and to always maintain your social distance whenever, again, you venture outside.
Yeah, I found it kind of interesting. Dr. Raju earlier was talking about the new devices that are being created by manufacturers. Specifically, I'd thought about this about a month or so ago, and I thought maybe it's too Star Trek-ish to create, but that ultraviolet light that you can shine on germs that will somewhat eliminate them, and then these foggers that you can use. I read an article about people being afraid to get in Ubers. So now can you imagine you're an Uber driver, you're kind of get back to work, and then somebody gets in your car and starts fogging it. I think that's the way things are kind of headed.
The fogging thing and the way that you just elaborated on that, Todd, made me think of an episode of The Office when Dwight was trying to, keep the lice out of everyone in the office, and he had like a fogger kind of situation and unintentionally released it on himself in an enclosed space. So that's interesting, to say the least.
It is. And then I have memories of the fogging truck that used to go through our neighborhood for the mosquitoes. And as kids, we used to chase after it when it was going down the street. Who knew? You know? So, that could be our new norm, with ultraviolet lights and foggers. Who's going to be the first to get one? I imagine you would. You'd do with those, wouldn't you?
No, not one bit.
I'd buy the ultraviolet light. I'd go with that.
Yeah, maybe. But, going back to you chasing those trucks, that explains so much now.
I knew I'd hear some response on that.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Have a good weekend. We've got Monday, Dr. Margaret Ford Fisher will be on the show. She's the president of our online college. And we've also got one of our videographers from HCCTV joining us.
Yes, we tried to have Andres Vivas on our show before, but unfortunately technology is what technology is. But now we're going to be up and running with Andres, who's going to speak to us about his experience during COVID-19. He's an international student from Colombia, and he's got a lot of friends from around the world who have shared their experience with him as a videographer. So join us on Monday. And be sure to follow us on our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And we'll see you again Monday morning at 10 a.m.